when I put the dice down, you probably saw it. I'm like, all right, 16. I'm like, I look at my health. I think I was at 11
No,
or
I'm talking
something.
about
I'm
the
like,
first pulverize.
oh,
I'm
the
not talking
first
about the
one.
second
Oh, okay, yeah, the
pulverize.
first one. Yeah,
Spoiler alert,
that just
dude.
overall sucked.
Ice in my veins, I've been driving this train, years in this lane.
All right, let's hit it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hometown TCG. You guys know me, my name is Josh, and I have a special guest today.
Hey, I'm Michael, also known as Critical.
And Michael, also known as Critical, is coming off the very first Proquest win for a Team Ascent. Now, Team Hometown TCG Ascent is a newer fab team. We just kind of got together within the last month, and these guys have been grinding. So first of all, from all of us, congratulations, dude. How's the win feel?
Hey, thanks so much. Yeah, it was definitely a very hard-fought victory. Yeah, definitely got lucky a few times here and there, but overall, it was an amazing day.
Dude, there's no march like through a ProQuest. Everyone just thinks, oh, I'll build the best deck and I can march through this ProQuest. You gotta get fortunate here and there. You gotta come across, maybe some favorable matchups or some opponent mistakes. But was this your first ProQuest? How were you feeling at the start of your ProQuest day? Did you know you were winning like when you walked in the door?
No, I had no expectations going into it. So that was actually my third ProQuest that I've attended. I'm going to be attending one more to round it out to a nice four this coming week. But yeah, that was the third one. So yeah, the first one I brought my one and only Prism. Got into the finals, lost to a Lightning Lexi. Yeah, that was a rough one. I kind of knew when I sat down that there was a very low chance I was going to win this fight because
No.
from all my testing, it was like a 0% win rate against this kind of deck. So that was a little soul crushing, but I definitely, gave it my all.
Okay.
The following week, I was like, all right, let's try something different. So I actually pulled out Bolton. I still am a firm believer that Bolton is kind of a dark horse in this meta.
Okay.
Warrior is one of the very few characters that can go toe to toe against Starbro. Because he has the big defense reactions. And I mean, when we talk about strategy later, you're going to hear me advocate about these big defense reactions, the big Ds. And so I played that, which is funny because everyone associates me as like the Prism guy, like always playing Prism. And so when I whipped over Bolton, it was funny because my opponent sat across from me and he started sideboarding and everything. And then I'm like, I'm playing Bolton, you know that, right? And he like looked at me and he was like, oh shoot, you're playing Bolton? I was like, I already started boarding for Prism and everything. So yeah, that's kind of the reputation I have now. But yeah, ended up going. I bubbled out of top 8, unfortunately. But I guess it was kind of
so Bolton didn't make top 8.
didn't make top 8.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had that clear. You pivoted off, and it did not go well.
It did not go the way I wanted to. It was funny because my only losses were against Starbro, if I remember correctly. So you gotta push the envelope a little harder. But anyway, week 3, I come back swinging with Prism after making some tweaks after getting
Back on Old Faithful. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And so I told my teammates, I'm like, hey, I'm kind of hedging my bets here. It's a calculated risk based off of the field. If I go up against certain matchups, it's definitely not going to be in my favor. And so yeah, the path all the way to victory was hard fought. I went up against way too many Viscerais,
you talked about hedging your bets, and this one seemed to pay off, right?
Yeah, somehow. I mean,
you were saying you went against too many Viscerais. You mentioned Lightning Lexus, so you did. This is your third ProQuest. You took Prism to this ProQuest because it's kind of your pet deck. It's your baby. You're back on Prism. You go to this ProQuest, and you're trying to dodge maybe the Lightning Lexis, but then you also just said I played way too many Viscerais. Is Viscerai a rough matchup for you too?
It is a rough matchup, contrary to the results of a lot of my matchups against Viscerai.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I ran into 4 of them. I won against 3.
Oh,
lost to 1.
You just said it was a bad matchup, and you went 3. Okay, 3-1.
It's something about the split damage. You can never get a shield up that will actually live.
Lots of go again if the Viscerai is playing some kind of aggro to pop auras. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they're pushing damage into you, and they're killing an aura, which is hard to compete, especially with my game plan, which is like smack down as many auras as I can, as quick as I can. You're just trading health, unfortunately, and then they also have some Prism hate cards. Runic Reclamation. It's everything you want in a card. It swings for 7, which is a breakpoint on 2 levels. well, goodbye Triumph, goodbye all your Heralds, swing for 7 as a breakpoint, on hit, destroy an aura, on hit, create another rune chant that's going to pop a shield later. So yeah, it's just everything you want in it. I
That
hate
card
that card.
is such gas. That's got to make that matchup very tough. But I do want to say that I got a chance to watch you, kind of play throughout the top 8, follow along while I was commentating, and then watch you in the finals. And it's not just your choice of deck. It's not just the matchups that you played. You played this event masterfully. Did you have any, before we get into your deck tech, before we start going match by match and doing your, hero breakdowns on how each matchup plays out, do you have any inflection points that you think were moments that enabled you to win this event? Was just a pivotal moment that you took over the top and you got there and won this event?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about the finals match, right?
And any events throughout the day that were like pivotal moments that were like, hey, this is gonna matter later and this is gonna get me there.
Oh, yeah. It was coming up with the quarterfinal pairing, quarterfinals, semifinals. When we only had 4 players.
Oh.
I always mix
that's semifinals. Semifinals. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, during the semifinals, I knew who we had left. So we had a Dash, we had a Viscerai, and we had a Starbro.
Okay.
And I was just praying. I'm like,
but hold on. Let's review that. You had a Dash, you had a Viscerai, a Starbro, and you had a Prism. So you had a semifinal of 4 different heroes.
Which is wonderful. Like, I love that. Like, I love an open meta.
That's kind of sick. Anyway, go ahead. So you had a Dash,
yeah.
you had a Viscerai, and you had a Starbro, and you're on Prism. Who are you trying to draw here?
I wanted to go up against Starbro. I was very vocal about that. I was like, let me play against Starbro, please.
Were you vocal to the Starbro player at the event?
I think Chris probably heard me. And everyone knew that, because going up against Dash, I played the Seth's Dash prior to this in the Swiss. I lost decidedly. Like, it's just too fast before you can get any board state. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty much going to be an auto loss. Viscerai, like, I've already lost to John. John was on Viscerai there as well. He completely demolished me in the Swiss round, and then we played another match for funsies because I died that quick. We actually played 2 games in that round because the first match, the official one, he actually drew like probably the god hand of all god hands for Viscerai. He created 12 rune chants on his turn.
Oh my gosh!
Zero response to that. So
you didn't lay down an order or anything in response.
No, I didn't have.
You just looked at rune chants and went.
I think I managed to put down Merciful Retribution and make 1 shield out of it. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Respectable, commendable.
But he popped off on his second turn. So so that was an extremely short game. And then the second match on that for funsies, like, he completely demolished me as well. So I was like, okay, if I get paired up against John's Viscerai, I'm probably dead as well.
Okay.
Pairings come out. The Dash plays against Starbro. I play against Viscerai, and I'm like, well, shucks. I'm in trouble here.
Well, you've gotten a lot of practice at this point. Not only did you get a beatdown that happened in the actual event, but you got a bonus free game to practice. So, glass half full looking at it. You got a lot of practice.
Yeah. I remember saying something because John commented. He's like, is this the same deck that I went up against in the Swiss round? Because I was playing very differently. I brought up the quote by Einstein, like, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. So I knew if I did the same thing against his deck, I was just guaranteed to lose. So I had to mix it up. So in the beginning, I was pushing as much damage as I could with my Heralds. And then that made him actually pivot away from doing an OTK strategy. He used his Skeleton at 8 rune chants, if I remember correctly, and didn't hit much. I think he only hit 1 card. So definitely variance worked in my favor greatly on that one. And I think on a 0 cost Sonata, he didn't hit it as well. So 2 Sonatas pretty much failed. So that helped me a ton. That definitely was the reason why I won that matchup for sure. And so when on the other side of the bracket with Chris's Starbro and Seth's Dash, I was actually kind of happy for that matchup because I had a feeling Starbro was going to win that. And
as I was commentating that match, Starbro took it fairly handily. Both players played extremely well. This is not a comment on either people playing the game, but it was Starbro had that one.
Yeah. And I'm like, between the two, it's a pretty obvious choice which one I want to go up against because I
Yes.
have built my deck around kind of killing Starbro as much as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, man. So you said you built your deck around killing Starbro. So let's get into it. Before we talk about your final deck or your final match, let's go ahead and check out your Prism build. Do you have any cool name for this build or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you asked.
Of course
So
I
some
asked.
people some people might wonder what does HOTS mean on the top left of the deck. So for those of you who don't know, like I'm a huge StarCraft fan. I've been playing it since I was like 5 years old.
Let's
And I play
go.
Zerg. So for those of you who know what HOTS mean, it means Heart of the Swarm. So yeah, Prism's my little Kerrigan over there, the Queen of Blades, and all of her auras are all her little minions. Um,
You
and
just
so
made me so happy. I
yeah.
did not know this before this interview.
Mhm.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. People always see me with my hoodie as well. It's actually a StarCraft hoodie with the Zerg logo on the back.
Dude.
But yeah, so I actually, it's kind of funny because it all came together. Because when you start slapping down all these auras, you just overwhelm your opponent, and that's probably why I enjoy playing the deck as well. Because in StarCraft, I love that feeling as well, where you just smash into your opponent again and again and again with all these like little attacks that they just can't handle until they crumble under that pressure. But anyway, that's why it's called HOTS. It's Heart of the Swarm,
Well,
with
dude,
Prism being in the center of it.
I mean, that's incredible. And let's start with the equipment suite here laid out. So you said this is kind of your deck theory. Your deck theory overall is to build this enormous and unmaintainable board state that eventually overwhelms your opponent. You're Zerg rushing your opponent essentially with
Yes.
your board state. And why do you choose this equipment? What are you using and why up here?
Yeah. So this equipment is actually very non-traditional from the previous set. Tales of Aria, you would never imagine running anything
Especially
like
a
this.
specific slot that's just glaring at us all right now. But go ahead, I'll let
Yes,
you
the
continue.
Iron
No, you can,
Hide
yeah, whatever.
Gauntlets. Yes. Why in the world would you want to run that? After thinking about what's my win con, the difference between this list and the list I ran the previous week in the first ProQuest, that was actually one of the start changes. In the previous one, my win condition was slap down as many auras as I can, but back then I think I was running like 18 or so auras, and people are like, "Wow, you're insane! Why are you running 18 auras?" Um, and it reminded me of the quote from Pacific Rim, where there's these two guys inside one of the inside one of the Jaegers, and he's like, "Now we have a choice here. We either sit and wait, or we take these flare guns and do something really stupid." So I decided, let's do something really stupid. Let's break the convention. What if I run all 27 of these bad boys? What could possibly go wrong? And it turns out it actually works really well. And once I started running all 27, I realized, wait a second, I'm not really swinging heralds. Why do I need Dreamweavers? I just need more armor. I need to survive. Give me more like tanking options. So
Wow.
it also synergizes with Tunic if you need like that quick like pop Tunic counter,
Hmm.
activate Tunic, use a resource to block for 2, and then you also have Arcanite Skullcap. So that is that'll help you get over like huge dominate attacks as well. Helps with the breakpoints. If you block, let's see, yeah, if you block with, well, we'll get to the defense reactions later, but that's kind of the general story of why
Okay.
the Ironhide gauntlets are there.
Okay. So
Um,
you said something no Prism
mhm,
player has ever said before. I don't need Dreamweavers. Forget this card, and you threw it in the garbage. You go with Ironhide Gauntlet, and then also you mentioned tankiness. I'm seeing Skullcap here. Is that for the same reason?
exactly. Since you're trading life for board state, you're probably going to be lower life than your opponent. It is not unusual for me to be at about 20 life with my opponent being like 35. And then that's where you kind of just hit that break point where you're like, all right, I'm ready. Voltron's assembled. uh,
The
time
number
to
of
start
references in
smacking
this
you.
video are insane. I
Yeah.
love this. This is awesome. So you mentioned trading life for board state. So
Mhm.
you're playing the full suite of auras, and you're using this equipment as more of either resource generation, when it comes to Tunic, or defensive options. But you're still running the Phantasmal Footsteps. You
Yes.
decided instead of a defensive option there, Phantasmal Footsteps just too good.
Yeah, Phantasmal Footsteps is key. I did explore the Mage Master boots. I know a lot of Prism players have like, what if I, put down even more auras? Let's put down 2 blue auras in one turn with the Mage Master boots or whatnot. But it's just too hard to play around. I explored ways to play around with that, and it's just the ability to swing a Herald, still get an action point even if they pop it, and then swing all your auras is just too valuable to give up.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's a great equipment suite. And again, when we went over the list, or you sent me the list earlier, it just, the Ironhide Gauntlet just glared at me. And it definitely makes sense. You know, when you talk me through it, you talk why it's in there, and you talked about this aura suite. You said, screw it, I'm all in. Give me the whole package. I'm going to plop it down right here on the table in front of you, if you will. And you're running all the auras. Talk me through some of these auras. We'll talk about, let's start with the original Monarch auras, right? We have the full suite of auras from Monarch.
Yeah. So, I mean, ALS easy. Like, I shouldn't have to explain why that one's in there. It just allows for so many pivot turns, allows you to interrupt your opponent's tempo. It's a great card overall.
And I saw you playing ALS in a very weird way that I hadn't seen before. You were often dropping it at the end of a turn after attacks, especially in the Starbro matchup, saying, I'm not going to give you the option to present Starbro next turn. You have to pop ALS. You played this card masterfully, and if you haven't had a chance, go watch that stream. I was just amazed at some of the ways you played this card, man.
Yep. I think this is a point of maturity for me as a Prism player over time. I used to always play Arclight Sentinel defensively, where I tried to interrupt an opponent's pivotal turn, where like, hey, they play a non-attack action, they pop Goliath Gauntlet, they pop Skeletal, whatnot.
Right.
But I've come to realize, okay, that's great, but oftentimes they still have all those pieces still. Like, you didn't get enough out of them. But if you play it on a offensive turn, where you play it on your own turn or at the end of all of their damage, then suddenly you're like, wait a second, this will actually give me one entire turn to come back into this. It is I will give you, 10 life for me to reset, like smash that reset button, basically.
Okay.
And that's what I keep saying. You trade life for board state. You thought Chain was the one with all the blood debt, using all that to get more power. No, Prism's the secret one where it's like, yeah, I will trade 10 of my life force to get this board state that I want.
To assemble Voltron, as you said.
Exactly.
Oh, well, that I just wanted to point out that play was awesome. And then we have a couple auras down here. We have the Mercils, the Odes, and the Parables. Risky auras, people have often looked at them as situational, but you said, no. They're for any situation. Slap them in here.
Slap them all down. Because the goal here is with the introduction of the Everfest auras, you're in a very unique situation where you can put down 2 auras in one turn. Historically, you used to be able to only do that on tome turns with Vestige. Now, however, you can actually do it quite consistently, whether or not you have a Tunic trigger, Tunic counter. Because, yeah, you can pitch 2 cards, slap down a yellow aura, and then plop down your blue aura after you obviously swing with your... Yeah, and being able to create 2 auras in one turn is huge. So maximizing the amount of yellow auras you have just increases the chance that you hit both of them.
Okay, and so you're running the full package there, and people are going to think I skipped it. They're already saying in the comment section, but I didn't. The reason I skipped over Genesis, I want to talk about those auras as a package. Let's talk about Genesis by itself, because Genesis is a ridiculous card. It's an entire illusionist package in a single card, and I often don't put much thought into it because there's no way it's sticking around for more than a turn.
Exactly. So if anything, it's kind of like a mini Arclight Sentinel, where your opponent has to respect it.
Yes.
And quite frankly, if they don't respect your Genesis, I'm happy either way.
You celebrate, you throw your hands in the air like you just don't care.
It's like, yeah, exactly. Because it does, as you said, it does everything you could want. It creates me a shield. It gives me soul, allows me to filter my hand. Like everything you could potentially want in one card. So you're obviously running Genesis, yeah. And I didn't want to skip over it, but we both know, and I saw from your games, the times I have got lucky enough to watch you play, nobody's leaving that thing on the field. You with a Genesis in front of you is something nobody wants to see. They're calling it right there. But you did mention the new auras that we got, and it's a 4 aura package that came in the Everfest Carnival, and this enables that 2 aura per turn kind of playstyle you were talking about. Yeah, precisely. Um, the blue auras by themselves aren't as powerful as the yellow for obvious. I mean, they cost 4 versus cost 0. These are cost 0. Um, so by themselves, not that powerful. It's when you start getting them together that things could become bonkers real fast.
When you build the
Um,
Megazord, if you will.
exactly. Yeah, Pierce Reality, Passing Mirage together, Goliath Gauntlet, and Dreamweavers every turn. Remember when I said who needs Dreamweavers anymore? I got 3 of them right there. Um,
You don't need them, but you'll take them.
yeah. I don't need them, but yeah, I'll just take them in the card form. So yeah, them together. Suddenly, your blue. You'll notice I don't run that many red attack cards. Well,
Hmm.
once you have your Pierce Reality out, your cards are red. The blues become red. Your 5s become 7s. So the a single Pierce Reality turns all your heralds into red heralds, but they still pitch for blue and yellow, which is amazing. Haze Bending is my favorite of the new cards. That card is just value. If your opponent lets that sit there, you're just getting shield after shield after shield. And when they finally wise up to kill that thing, guess what? It becomes a shield. And if you get 2 of those bad boys out, yeah, you're just that, that's like a win con in itself.
Right. It just seems like this endless engine that doesn't stop. It creates, like you've said so many times, this board state that you just
Yeah,
can't deal with.
yeah, precisely,
And then
precisely.
what about,
And
how do you feel about Shimmers of Silver? Kind of the last
yeah.
unmentioned aura out of here.
Mhm. Yeah, Shimmers of Silver is another aura that I feel like the opponent needs to respect. Not immediately. Not so Genesis they need to respect immediately if they want to shut it down. Shimmers of Silver is a bit of a slower roll, but it's one that they will need to respect in about turn 2 or 3 turns. So I quite like that card. I think it's in a good spot. And I think as long as you're able to pepper a variety of your auras with it, it pulls the attention away from shimmers. And yeah, it's just a great value card.
Okay.
And yeah, I'd say like one thing people might note is that if you're running 27 auras, how in the world are you blocking?
Right.
Yeah, the way I like to describe it is that the auras block, but not in the conventional sense.
Mm.
It requires your opponent to sacrifice an action point and an attack, which generally represents 3 to 4 damage. So guess what? Each of your auras are actually defense reactions. Um, so
That's
that
such
that
a fascinating way to look at it. And the way you just said that, it kind of just made it click for me, because your opponent has to respect this. As long as you're not looking at a Katsu Kadachi or something of that
yeah.
nature,
Mhm.
it really does take up a lot of your opponent's resources to deal with. Wow. So
Yes.
okay, so trading
Mhm.
life for board state with these
Yep.
auras, and now these auras are serving two purpose. They're offensive and they're defensive.
Yep. Exactly. That is the dance and thin line you got to play between.
Well, it sounds like this deck is just this awesome value engine. Again, I got to see it online, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the Herald package that is in here. The rest of this deck is a value engine. Everything in here is built in here and put in here behind this idea that you said about generating this value on the board. But you are still running a good suite of heralds here. Why did you pick the heralds that you're running? Is there any of the heralds that stand out? Is there anything that after this event you might be like, it underperformed, I'm looking at a different herald?
Yeah. Yeah. So after playing Prism for a very long time, you become very knowledgeable of all 8 heralds and what they are good and not good for. So each and every single one of these heralds were handpicked to serve a very specific purpose. So yeah, I'm very confident. I stand behind the pick that I have here. So starting off, Erudition, shouldn't have to explain that one. That's an auto put.
It it
Um,
it feels like Genesis. It just goes in. It's just
it just goes.
an amazing card, and it's another card that there's no opponent that's going to let that thing hit.
Yeah, and if you're familiar with the lore, you'll know that Herald of Erudition is Prism's Herald, which is kind of weird because Judgment is the Prism specialization, but it should be Erudition in my opinion. But anyway, if we
Huh.
if we wanted to care about the lore, who cares?
Oh, I mean, the lore is sweet. I had no
I
idea,
love the lore.
but why is that not the specialist? Anyway, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but now it's gonna be stuck in my mind all night. But
Yeah.
I do know it's a
Uh,
fantastic card either way.
yep. Yep. Herald of Judgment. That one is for 3 matchups that will just help push the percentage points a little bit more in your favor.
Hmm.
Viscerai. Um, they do like banishing cards with Rattlebones. This if they let that hit, there goes their Rattlebone play.
Hmm.
Chain, obviously, this card was meant to kill Chain.
Yes, it
So
was the
this is
chain counter.
this is another card similar to Erudition that Chain needs to respect. And Katsu prevents him from doing his ability, because once he tutors his card with his hero ability, it goes to the banish zone, which means he cannot play it if he lets this hit. So this Herald that in many ways has kind of not seen much play in recent times, I realized like, hey, no, this is what I need in these kind of matchups. It's kind of a little extra there. So Herald of Judgment, good one.
Okay.
Herald of Protection. This is probably my favorite aura. Not aura. Herald overall. It just does everything that you want as a Prism player. It has one of the highest values of any of the Heralds when I did a very nerdy calculation. Because if you think about it, let's take the red one,
Hmm.
which we have on the right hand side. Swings for 7. If it hits, it becomes a shield. So if the shield hits, that represents 8 damage in
Yes.
total. 7 for the Herald, 1 for the shield, and then guess what? 1 more value because it prevents a damage. So 9. That is an insane amount of value you get from a singular card. Hence why I have 9 of them, running all 9. The shield is just amazing. The damage value is great. It's my favorite card. Easy.
It's an
auto
incredible
build.
card.
Herald of Rebirth. This is an interesting choice. This is where you kind of get into more stylistic choices, where you're like Rebirth, Tenacity, or Triumph. So, do you want to? I call it revive a Phantasm. Do you want more likelihood to hit, which is Triumph, or do you want really high likelihood to hit, or armor crackers known as Tenacities? I valued Rebirth because I knew my Herald line was already kind of thin, and the on hit is pretty intimidating when you're like, hey, I'm swinging Herald of Rebirth for 6 on hit. I'm going to revive a Phantasm. And your opponent's like, what do you mean by revive a Phantasm? Like, I will take a Phantasm from my grave and put it to the top. And then I kind of like scroll through my graveyard and put Erudition on the top. And I'm like, your choice.
This is what I'm going to do. If you take
Yeah.
this, you will block this.
Yes. Yep. You will block the next one, which is coming. So
Yes.
Herald of Rebirth, I love that card. And let's see. Moving on, we have Wartune Heralds. It's such a good Herald. 1 cost, no other on hit other than going to Soul. But just the 1 cost is actually very important because it allows you to pitch a yellow, swing with Wartune Herald. If they pop it, you're okay. You will use the Phantasmal, use your 1 floating resource to activate Phantasmal Footsteps, gain an action point, swing all your auras. So this is your like ignition key to swinging all your auras. Love it. It's a great card.
Oh, fantastic. And I think we're all on the same page here with Wartune Herald. It's just an awesome card. Herald of Rebirth, when I saw that card in this deck, I was very excited because I like any kind of intermittent value and recursion and presented threat that isn't necessarily the threat to the naked eye. You're saying to your opponent, this mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat. I'm going to get something back. I don't have to tell you what it is. It's just, it plays this weird mind game. But you said specifically earlier in this video that you loved the Starbro matchup. And we've talked about the auras, we've talked about the Heralds, and I think one of the reasons you like the Starbro matchup is for the D-React suite in this deck.
Yes. So I'm actually running 9.
9 D-Reacts. Now, we only see we are talking about the main board now. We only see 3 in the main here. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep. Soul Shield. Because this deck may have issues getting cards to Soul, you want as many guaranteed Soul cards as possible. Right now, Merciful Retribution and Soul Shield are your guaranteed Soul. When they are destroyed or used, they go to your Soul. So you have 6 Soul there. And so, yeah, Soul Shield, great. It does everything you want. If you have an aura in hand, well, guess what? You can kind of pitch that aura so it doesn't get destroyed. And you block for 6. It's a good card. In terms of the other defense reactions to choose from, Sink Below and Unmovable Red. Unmovable Red is probably the hero in the matchup against.
We saw some hero plays with it that we will get into for sure, but this card is so good.
It is so good, especially with the amount of blues that this deck is running. You will have no problem paying for it. And you have, guess what? You have Tunic as well. So if you're stuck with an all yellow hand for whatever reason, you can still use your Tunic and only use one card to get unmovable out. And that card has saved my butt so many times in so many games. It is great. If you're going against Starbro with any deck, I highly recommend this under just about any build. That's what you need. You need a 7/8 block, 8 from Arsenal. Yeah, on demand.
You've hit the nail on the head with the unmovable meta. I love it, dude.
And lastly, we have the 3 Sync Blows. Sync Blow, great value card. Allows you to filter your hand, blocks for 4, costs 0. Cleanly blocks the Ice Hammer, cleanly blocks those annoying snatches or meet and greets. So you have a lot of the Sync Blows is just a great card overall.
Fantastic. Lots of targets out there for Sync Below right now. And I love that we're looking at a Prism deck that doesn't declare itself as a tank Prism. It is more, of a value engine board state Prism that can still find a place to play these awesome defense reactions. So we're looking at the board, and you mentioned something here, and I'm going to pick your mind on the board as we go through. You mentioned that, we talked about the Herald package. Herald of Ravage is in the board. Why is this the blue Herald that you picked for the board when you have to board in some stuff, maybe add a little more pitch?
Yeah, that was a interesting one, and people might go under like, why is that there? Well, after running a hypergeometric calculator on the likelihood to draw certain cards, having 2 more blues will really help play out the unmovables.
Really? Okay.
Yep. So those go in when you're up against Starbro. So you put the 2 extra blues to just help that percentage point in that alignment work.
Dude, you
better.
just blew my mind. You guys at Team Ascent are using hypergeometric calculators to calculate the likelihood of card draw and hands and the ability to play these cards. This is why you guys are on another level. But is there a reason you chose this specific blue? I know we want to add more blue for the pitch,
yes.
but why Herald of Ravages?
There is actually a very specific reason for that. So Herald of Ravages, you're typically going to use it for a pitch. If you happen to hit second cycle of deck, or if it aligns in such a way that you have an Ode to Wrath out, this is where you get a lot of value from it. Because arcane damage synergizes with Ode to Wrath as well. Yep. So it serves 2 purposes. Primarily, it's used for pitch. Secondarily, though, it'll allow you to swing harder than usual if you have Ode to Wrath out.
Well, again, that's an awesome piece of tech. I love it. I love that it synergizes with the D-React package. But you mentioned that you might have trouble getting cards in Soul, and you got Celestial Cataclysm in the board. Why the Celestial Cataclysm, and when is it coming in?
That's an excellent question, Josh. And luckily, I have an answer for that. It's actually most used for the mirror.
The mirror matchup, nice, love it.
Kill any and all heralds with that 7 breakpoint. It pitches for yellow, and it's a 3 block. So I didn't even use it for its normal ability. I call it Super E Strike because it basically has all modes. So yeah, that one is my Super E Strike. But yeah, I never got to play Celestial Cataclysm. It was purely used defensively. I didn't even get a Prism Mirror. I love the Prism Mirror. I think that is a showcase of like all levels of skill. But that card is mostly for awesome. The mirror.
Okay, so it is in there for the mirror. Have you? I know you didn't get to cast it during the ProQuest. Have you ever cast it during the ProQuest? Or during while playing this deck? No. Okay. All right. We're seeing Command and Conquer in here as we talked about the Herald of Protection. We got Command and Conquer up here. What matchups is Command and Conquer coming in? I'm an advocate for Command and Conquer. I try to stuff it into everything because it's just a good card.
It's a good card except for against anyone who can run Crown of Seeds. Because it'll just get that card right out of there, and then you're like, 6 damage is just 6 damage.
Well, take 5, yeah.
Yep. Take 5. Yeah, exactly. So it becomes incredibly weak at that point.
It's even worse.
That one's actually used against Ranger. Is a huge one. Chain even could you might consider running Command and Conquer as well because you have to challenge on hits that disrupt their turn. It's also useful in the mirror.
True.
So Yeah, I didn't get to use Command and Conquer too much, but yeah, anyone who's trying to do any sort of like combo, I think I even ran Command and Conquer in one of my Viscerai matchups as well. If you think that they're trying to OTK you, for example, this will slow the roll down.
Okay. I mean, I love it. It's great tech, and again, I'm an advocate. It's a good card. We got the Null Rune gloves in here. I think that's pretty clear. And you said you had trouble with the Viscerai matchup. You're definitely going to bring Arcane Barrier. But I want to talk Miraging Megamorph. This is one of the new illusionist attacks from the Everfest Carnival. And again, we talked about cards that just do what you want to do. This card just seems like it's got this deck written all over it.
Right? And this is probably my favorite new attack card that came in the suite. It is such a good card. One of the things that people will notice when I play is I give off as little information as possible. So when you open up with Miraging Metamorph and you just kind of look at your opponent, like, you don't know what I have. I could have an Arclight Sentinel in Arsenal, and I'm going to flash that out if you decide to pop this. Which actually happened once, not in the Proquest, but
That is
they're
so
never going to
nutty.
pop that ever again. So yeah, with the amount of yellow auras you have, you can flash something out if they ever decide to pop this. And if they decide to pop it and you don't have anything, you can Prism as an instant, get 2 shields out of it. Like, why not? So this kind of represents 21 free damage over the course of the game if they decide to not kill it. Yeah,
That's absolutely wild. So I love
30.
this list. For those of you looking, I'll probably put the link to one of these lists or a link to wherever you guys played your Proquest, and there'll be a link to the list that you played. And I will update everyone. He has already changed the list because I think the message you sent earlier was back on the grind, already changed the list or something like
Yep.
that.
Yep. This is it's funny. I think the date on it says the 26th or something.
Yeah, I have the date cut off, but it does. It says HOTS
I've
26.
already made changes to it because from my own experience on the day, understanding the meta, it's funny because if anyone, have you played StarCraft before?
A little bit,
A little bit. So,
not as
yeah,
much as you have. I can guarantee
this is
that.
all about evolving, adapt, and overcome. So this list is already evolved.
I've got several
So
buddies that would say it's more about bashing your head against the keyboard and saying, "Do I win yet?" But hey, to each their own. I
that's
want to
fair.
talk about your ProQuest, your journey here. Kind of, let's focus in specifically on the last round because I got to commentate this round. I got to watch you guys play, and it was awesome. And you played against a teammate, and there was
Yeah.
some sick lines here. But you got the matchup you wanted. Do you ever think you were out of it?
Uh, yeah, about like I think it was about 50% of the way in. You always get into that position where I'm like 20 life, 19 life, and they're still at 30 some. But I have to remind myself again and again. I'm like, "No, this is all part of the plan. Like you've been in this position many, many times." Until it's like the South Park Randy thing. It's like I didn't hear no bell,
Uh,
Like
I was
I'm gonna
thinking
keep going.
Rocky. I was thinking Rocky Balboa. If you tire him out from beating your face, you can win.
Yeah, exactly. So as long as I have 1 health, I can still win this.
So I want to walk through. I want to walk through a couple plays, and I want to ask your opinion. Turn
Yeah,
one, turn zero rather. Starbro going
yeah.
first. Starbro presents Starbro. Starbro draws 4 cards and slaps them on the table, and then throws 2 middle fingers at you because you guys are buddies, and says, "Haha, look at me do the thing." And he slaps Starbro at you. You take a little bit of damage. Starbro still has an action point. You have a Genesis in
Yes.
hand. You elect after the Starbro passes, knowing not to swing that hammer, saying, "Hey, I'm going to save this. If you drop an aura, I'm going to kill it." You then elect to still drop the Genesis and let the Starbro pop that Genesis. Walk us through that. Why that
Yeah.
decision?
That was extremely intentional. Some people might think, "Oh, that was a mistake. He obviously forgot that he has go again and he has an action point. He's going to
The
kill it. Why did
commentator would have never said that.
Why in the world would he do that? I thought this guy was the best Prism player." It actually served 2 purposes that worked in my favor. Actually, I can think of the third one. The third one, he decides, "I'm just going to swing for face. I'm going to push 4 extra damage and give you a frostbite." That's one possibility. I keep Genesis. I'm happy. 2 is looking at the hand. If you notice what I pitched, I had 2 shimmers in hand. I need to get them out. I didn't think that this was something that I wanted this early on. I needed to filter that through. And then lastly, and most importantly, I remember telling this to Chris, who was the Starbro player. I'm like, I have to increase your variance. I have to increase your variance because I know you're going to arsenal one of those cards, which you're going to use for crown, and you're going to hold in hand the card that you know you have the least amount of that element in your deck. So the chance of you fusing has gone from like 40% to 60% if I let you keep that. So I told him, like, I know you're going to pop this, but I need to increase your variance. So I slapped it down and I'm like, go ahead and kill it. Give me one card. So that's
And
what he
all
did. And if I remember correctly, he didn't get to fuse next turn. It could have been very different.
and all of these thoughts came at turn 0 in the finals game of a ProQuest after an entire day of grinding.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh
Like,
my gosh. What? That is
yes.
insane, man.
Yep, you have to play those percentage points, and I knew, like, oh man, damn, like a lot of players can get flustered very quickly, like, hey, oh man, he fused turn one, damn it, I'm already behind. But like, you got to keep your eye on the ball here, and I'm like, okay, well, if he fuses again next turn, that's gonna be terrible. Let's yeah, try to reel the let's reel that in a little bit and try to regain some momentum here.
All right, I got a second play for you. So that's a great walkthrough of the first play. Second play, your opponent, the opposing Starbro, not only slaps a pulverize down on you, but stands up, shakes the entire table, and flexes
Yes.
right in your face. What's going
Yep.
through your mind? How are you playing around not only the freaking pulverize, but the muscles that are bulging out of your opponent?
Yes. Yes. We had a good time. So if anyone doesn't know, like, that wasn't any like bad manners or BM
No,
or
no,
anything
sorry.
like
They're
that.
yes,
Yeah,
sorry.
we were all having a great time. I laughed my ass off when I saw that. I'm like, oh man, you did it. You did the thing.
That the broadcast was wild. It was
Yep.
insane. The camera
Yep.
shook when the flex happened. I was
Yes.
like, "Oh, I wish I could have been there to see it all." You guys were
Yep.
laughing your tails off.
Yeah. Yeah, for the second one, like, when I put the dice down, you probably saw it. I'm like, all right, 16. I'm like, I look at my health. I think I was at 11
No,
or
I'm talking
something.
about
I'm
the
like,
first pulverize.
oh,
I'm
the
not talking
first
about the
one.
second
Oh, okay, yeah, the first
pulverize.
one. Yeah,
Spoiler alert,
that just
dude.
overall sucked. Because I can't remember. Did I have a defense reaction for that? I
I don't
think I
think you had a
did.
defense reaction for first pulverize. Or
I had something. The
yeah,
second one I had a sink below. The first one I think I might have had a unmovable in Arsenal, which helped minimize that damage, but
oh
still,
no, I
like,
think you did. You did have an unmovable in Arsenal for first
yeah,
pulverize. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, you try to minimize as much damage as possible on that, but uh yeah, that it does unnerve you a little bit. Like, it not only pulverizes your character, but it kind of, pulverizes your mind. You're like, wow,
The
I
physical
blocked
and
and I
mental pulverize.
still got hurt.
Okay,
And then
so
I remember swinging Ode after that or something. It's like Ode for -3.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was I think the chat blew up with Prism comes back for -3. Starvo should gain 3 life here. No,
Yeah.
that play was wild, but you spoiled the next one. The
Oh, it's all right.
second No, dude, you're totally fine. This is I'm also just messing with you. This I
Yeah.
love chatting with you. This was the second pulverize. Comes down. Starvoed pulverize in your face. How did that feel?
That one was very scary because I was like quickly counting. I'm like, am I just dead here? Do I have no options? Because at that
Can
time
I
I knew I
block the
had a
card?
yeah, I had Arclight Sentinel in Arsenal. And I'm like, well, you obviously can't pull that out. I mean, you're just dead anyway.
Right.
So luckily I did have a sink below, so that's some value there.
Yep.
And then I looked over at my armor and I'm like, okay, this is what it's for. And I remember contemplating. If you watch the replay, you'll notice, like, I put forward Tunic, and I'm like, oof, like, I don't need to throw it yet. I don't need to throw it yet. I can still potentially get value out of it.
And that mattered because you
It
used
did
that tunic counter later in the game.
create a shield later on, but
It's
I
nuts.
when I pushed it forward, I'm like, I remember here I was like hearing my brother's voice is like, only throw equipment when you really need to. It takes a lot of mental fortitude to be under that much pressure and not panic and throw something forward. So I'm like, all right, and I pulled it back. Like, I can't throw this yet. It's not over. 2 life is still alive, and I can potentially get value out of it. And I knew, like, hey, well, I got Arclight in Arsenal. hit that reset button, right? Get the tempo back. And so yeah, that was, that was rough.
That
sure.
was that play was nutty. When you pulled the tunic back and got value out of the counter, the booth was going crazy. I was going crazy. You could see there was a hush that had fallen over the actual ProQuest. You just made a killer play, but none more killer than the last moment I want to talk to you about. The turn. Starbro's trying to finish the job. Goes digs for Starbro. Can't find it. Goes hammer. Block into blinked Oakenold out of nowhere. We thought it was done. We were celebrating victory. We were putting dirt on your coffin. And what did you freaking do to all of us?
Red unmovable from hand.
Red unmovable out of nowhere. We thought we had seen both at that point. We thought we'd seen him. We had it. He responds to the blink with red unmovable, stays alive. It was insane.
Yes, like that was definitely a lucky moment. It could have been in any of those last like 20 cards that I haven't seen. It aligned perfectly, as opposed to having to throw armor and 2 cards at it, for example, to stop that. So yeah, the stars definitely aligned on that attack.
And then eventually you were able to, I believe it was Ode to Wrath, you were able to line up 2 on the board.
2.
And once you got 2 Ode to Wraths, both players at a low life total, Starbro's not meant to grind that low. You're able to close it out.
Yeah, because once they have to start blocking, then their threat just decreases substantially. One thing to note, actually, Nick was the one who pointed it out, that actually for the second Pulverize, we didn't count the on-hit effect, that the first attack is supposed to have -4. So obviously, for me, I went to go review the footage, run through all the lines, and I'm wondering, like, will this change the outcome of the game? Because I would feel really, really bad if this was the reason why I would have changed it. And running through all the lines, knowing what all the cards were, definitively at that point, Chris was actually dead. So that is a sigh of relief. I actually wrote a very long analysis about it, of like all the lines. And at that point, Chris was actually definitively dead. So even though we both missed that trigger, it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the game. Just to make that clear, because I know someone's going to go like, you missed that one at this thing and it could have changed it.
Welcome to internet gameplay, dude. We do it all the time here on Hometown TCG. And my phone, the day after a gameplay video, will blow up with YouTube comments. This player's so bad. It's so many backseat gamers. I wouldn't worry about it. Sounds like you guys had an awesome time. Thank you so much for just reviewing this. And once again, congratulations to you. Specifically, I'll congratulate all the Team Ascent guys, the Hometown TCG Team Ascent guys. They did an awesome job. But you specifically, man, you came away, you put on the crown, and the crown's golden. That kind of works with the yellow prism list here. Do you have anything you want to say in closing to any maybe fans? You got any people that might have watched this long? The 3 people that are still watching long YouTube videos. What do you want to say, man?
Yeah, no, hey, thanks for sticking with us for this long, and really appreciate your guys' time and your support. I'm just happy that I was able to make you guys proud. Yeah.
Well, thanks again, man. I'd like to point out all of the guys from Team Ascent are in the Hometown TCG Discord, constantly helping with deck lists, answering questions, playing games. These are awesome members of the Flesh and Blood community. And it's not only you, man, it's all the guys. I'm so lucky to be able to work with a team as amazing as you. So thank you so very much. Congratulations, and thanks for chatting. And then before we go, what was the gold foil? I forgot.
Oh, it was a Null Rune Robes.
Oh, Null Rune Robes. Did it look cool?
Oh, it looked gorgeous.
Sick, man. All right, well, thanks again for all your time, everyone. Remember to click the like and subscribe button. And if you want to support further and ask questions, kind of interact, chat with, and see what Team Ascent is up to, visit me at Patreon at patreon.com/HometownTCG. Jump in the Discord. Thanks again for watching. I think I said it all. And until next time, you guys know me. My name is Josh.
I'm Critical.
And we'll see you around. Let's cover our cameras, do the YouTube thing. Goodbye.
Ice in my veins, I've been driving this train. Years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame. Cause I came to the game and I changed it to play how I like, rearranged it to my own domain. Yeah, I got what it takes, made lots of mistakes, taking shots, skipping breaks, feeling lost.